Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now back in 2020, I made a video about Dragon Ball Evolution and how you could possibly fix the movie, if you like that sort of thing. In that, I like to change the original idea and remove some of the additions that Hollywood had made to try and tweak Goku's origin story into something that would have been more accurate to Toriyama's vision. And despite Toriyama being an executive producer, he was promptly ignored because the other executives had a much better idea about what Dragon Ball was. Not the guy who had originally made the whole thing in the first place and had been ensconced with it for 25 years up at that point. We followed a more mystical adventure approach in our video, with Goku remaining much more true to his original archetype. But, realistically, we're not going to get that if we got a Western adaptation. So instead, what I'd like to do is plot something that could have saved the franchise that we already got, so that you could say that, oh yeah, Evolution's first movie wasn't great, but the sequel really saved it. So today, I'd like to share with you my idea about what you could do with Dragon Ball Evolution 2. Granted, I know people don't want it, but this is all just a thought experiment that I had. And honestly, the guy who wrote the screenplay, I don't mean to be pompous, but I think I can do better. So again, we are working with what we got in the first movie. We had Goku learning about his inner power from his teachings with Gohan much later in the timeline, him getting together with Chi-Chi because he had a crush on her, they brought Roshi back to life, and the Dragon Balls were now once again scattered across the stars. But remember, there was a mid-credits scene because they thought they were getting a sequel, where Piccolo had survived his battle with Goku and was being tended to by some random Aztec-like maidens. So it's safe to say that in any sequel, Piccolo would be coming back in some capacity. So be sure to like and subscribe if you like these ideas and if you want me to do a Dragon Ball Evolution 3 script to make a trilogy, or follow my other discussions and the ones that Have and I collab on together. Thank you. So immediately, there are things that we would need to rectify that were missing or completely inaccurate from the first movie. First of all, no more high school. None of that. Shame on you. In this timeline, Chi-Chi and Goku have graduated and have dedicated their lives to one another. They have gotten married in the meantime and are living in Goku and Gohan's old house in the countryside to mimic their house around Mount Paozu. However, the itch to find the Dragon Balls just hasn't gone away, but also the desire to train has remained strong, and they trained together. Roshi's power was quite curious too, so Goku and Chi-Chi decide to go to find Roshi's new home. He had relocated to a desert island after his place in the city had been torn down because of his absence, and also on the grounds that he had technically died, even though he had been brought to life by a magical dragon. Sadly though, that excuse does not wash with the public records and insurance offices, so Roshi now is technically a person that no longer exists. However, since he is meant to be a hermit, that's no real big loss really. This new place he's called is called Kami House, named after himself and the Kamehameha, his legendary technique. Goku and Chi-Chi arrived to find that another person was talking to Roshi, this being Krillin, somebody who was conspicuously absent from the first movie, despite being Goku's best friend in the original source material. Why was that so hard to replicate in the movie? Come on, you have the hero and his best buddy sidekick. That's not difficult. Was it too strong an urge to make Goku a loner and an outcast in that original screenplay? In any case, this Krillin is quite the selfish little so-and-so, having escaped his monastery to seek training from Roshi's new school. Naturally, the master isn't interested, but Goku then steps up and is able to convince him to take the little guy on. Krillin is grateful for this, and they immediately become friends. Now wait, Masako, why don't we have the rivalry that we have in the original? Well, remember, we're trying to fit quite a lot in a 2-hour movie, so to have that in there as well would be a little long. And since Goku already knows Roshi, he can have some sway in giving the monk a chance to prove himself to the master. The training begins, and we have a short montage of the three of them training, Goku, Chi-Chi, and Krillin, with all of Roshi's techniques and methods of training from the original series maintained, the milk run and all. Where does this all go, Masako? Well, of course, it's got to be a tournament. The 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, in fact, because in the previous movie, that, you could say, was the 21st. And to expedite some time from the purposes of a movie, we have the introduction of the Crane School as well, Roshi's old rivals from the days of him training with Ernie Hudson. Tenshinhan and Chaozu are introduced, and seen as somewhat evil foes, with a keen eye on stomping out Roshi's students. Yamcha has arrived on the scene too, since he has run out of money, and wants to try his luck in being a fighter, keen to get some money and cash, as well as maybe carve out a new niche in life. He is naturally happy to see his friends from the first movie, but still vows to give them a good challenge and fight, should their paths meet in the contest. But thanks to Chaozu's abilities, Tenshinhan would end up meeting Goku in the rounds relatively early on, since Shen has sensed that Goku's power is mighty. Take down the strongest fighter in the Turtle School Academy, and the rest will fall. Their morale crushed. Basically, we're getting the 22nd martial arts tournament here in a nutshell, all the way up to the final where Tenshinhan would win. But after fighting Goku and the rest of the Turtle School, he starts to feel a little sorry for them. After all, their fighting style was nothing like his master had described. He had been led to believe, as well as Chaozu, that they were cheaters, and they were underhanded, they played games and tricks, but none of that happened. All of them had fought bravely and with honour, by the rules. This had left Tenshinhan reeling, and he apologised to Master Roshi for his behaviour and conduct earlier on in previous rounds because, you know, he did break Yamcha's arm. He asked for forgiveness. Roshi accepts the apology and says that if he pays for dinner, all will be forgiven, to which the Triclops obviously agrees to because money's not really much of a thing for him. But then we see the return of Piccolo. He takes out Krillin like in the original, or more accurately, Tambourine does. Now, of course, this being an Americanization of the original, we need to change the name somewhat, but somewhat keep it accurate, so Tambo? We can perhaps nod to the full name later on, to which this gets a giggle out of Roshi. Tambourine? What kind of a name is that? Naturally, Goku is angry that Krillin, a new friend of his and someone he had gotten close to, had been slain so wrongly. And Roshi is equally disturbed that Piccolo has returned. A warning had been left on Krillin's body, that Piccolo was looking for the Dragon Balls as well, to get his revenge. So this leads our heroes to call upon Bulma for assistance, but this time around she isn't so willing to help, because she can't help. What we can do to add some peril and uncertainty into a 2-hour movie is that Bulma has been told that she cannot go on any more adventures like that since she's expected to take over Capsule Corp full-time from her father very soon. And to have the new boss gallivanting about the world like some drifter would not be a good business model for the shareholders to digest. As a result, when the group arrive at the company HQ, they are swiftly met with radio silence from Bulma. Dr. Briest does turn up to apologise, but admits that the company's executives have made their minds up and there's nothing he can do about it, despite being the guy who made the company in the first place. But there is one thing she had left for Goku in case of an emergency. He surreptitiously hands over to Goku a small box, which contains the Dragon Radar, with a note from Bulma stating that even if she can't help on the ground with them right now, at least her tech could provide some sort of aid from them should Piccolo cause trouble again. This then would lead to basically the King Piccolo saga unfolding, with Goku still losing the first battle to Piccolo after his recovery. There's the introduction of Yajirobe and Korin, as well as Tenshinhan and Chaozu helping out the new Dragon team, having distanced themselves from Shen. Not to mention the extra help of Chi-Chi being in the timeline as well, them very keen to get the Dragon Balls to revive Krillin, who had been taken from them all too soon. She was friends with Krillin as well, because he's everybody's friend. The slight changes here to make things play out more like a movie, yes, we have to do that I'm afraid to make it cohesive somewhat, is that Mai from the past movie had returned after being shot in the back by Yamcha. She wants to get her own back against the bandit, as well as Goku too, because they were the ones to fell her and her master in such a heinous manner. And yeah, the bandit is still a little bit cautious of fighting, but like his bandit ways, he never likes to see unfinished business. The situation now comes about in the second act of whether or not to rely on the mighty power of Ozaru. You know how sometimes in these big epic movies you get the main guy going like, oh, I got this power, but I don't know whether I can do it. I don't know whether I'm strong enough or not. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, the Ozaru is the thing that possesses Goku from the first movie. Goku isn't sure he can rely on it. That had been the thing that killed Roshi before. But Roshi isn't nervous. He knows that with recent training, that Goku could be strong enough to control it if need be. Perhaps the Ozaru is in you, right now. He waits for the laughter track, but it never happens. because I stopped it. Piccolo revels in the fact that Goku will not call upon the Ozaru power because he's too scared, and thusly when they fight next, he is able to defeat him because Goku doubts himself, and not even Roshi's Martha can stop Piccolo. But this time Roshi doesn't die, but he cannot fight back either when Piccolo is gloating over everybody. And so, he summons Shenron and wishes to be the king of the world. He then, of course, destroys Shenron like in the original, meaning nobody can use the Dragon Balls against him. This then leads to the gang taking Goku to Korin's tower, reviving him like in the original, and Piccolo becoming the king of Earth and bringing everything under his rule. But a certain lady president of Capsule Corp has got something in the works to try and be a final push. Once Goku had been healed and undergone his training and drinking of the Ultra Divine Water, that could be a nice little 20-minute interlude in the third act, he feels ready to go back and try again against Piccolo. He goes back down to Earth, where Tenshinhan and Chaozu have done their best, as well as Chi-Chi, to help save the public from Piccolo's tyranny and children. But then, the main cavalry comes in the form of a massive airship with Capsule Corp's logo all over it. It is there to take down Piccolo's floating fortress in a massive vehicular battle. As that goes on, Piccolo and Goku meet again, with the latter more than ready to get his revenge for his fallen allies. The battle is fierce, but Piccolo has in the back of his mind confidence that Goku will not win, since he is unable to use the power of Ozaru. But then, Bulma projects the moon in the sky from her airship, and Goku accepts its inner monkey power and unleashes its power entirely. Him with total control this time around. Piccolo is floored. He is stunned. He has no answer to this power because he didn't expect this to happen. And he has no choice but to try and defend as best he can. But it ultimately leads to his downfall. But just before he dies, instead of birthing an egg, he conjures one from his hands with the last ounce of magical energy that he has left and fires it away from the scene. Goku is too fixated on his prey to notice, and the others are not fast enough to try and catch it. With that, Goku has saved the day, and Bulma has received praise from her board for saving the world in her own way, meaning she now has their trust, and is able to go on adventures again with Goku and pals. Another face makes his entrance too. Mr. Popo has arrived, requesting Goku's presence upon the lookout. The Guardian of Earth would like to see him. He and Kami meet, and the latter requests Goku's presence, and for him to train with him for many years. Goku accepts this, on the condition that the Dragon Balls are brought back so they can restore the world and bring back Krillin, after all that carnage that Piccolo had wrought upon the world. And of course, with Kami being responsible for Earth's safety, he complies. The world is restored, and Krillin is revived. Goku trains with Kami because of it. Far off though, in the countryside, the son of Piccolo has been born, and is ready to do what he does. But another thing is occurring. Out in space, the massive energy on display has caught the interest of a certain Saiyan who is just skulking about the outer solar system, looking for someone. This is Raditz, but we only see his hand and hear his voice. Kakarot, I finally found you. And we roll credits. Well, what do you think of that as a potential sequel to Dragon Ball Evolution? If you like that, do check out my other video here, in which we probe more deeply into what was wrong with the first one, and I shall see you all in the next video. Catch you later!